Good afternoon, children. Welcome to our last lesson in the unit of Revelation. That word revelation comes from the word reveal, remember. And today we have another parable story where Jesus reveals a message for us. And I really like this parable. I hope you do too. Listen carefully to the parable that Jesus tells his disciples and his followers, and also to the explanation of what it really means. Jesus had gone out and sat by the lake by himself. Soon such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat near the shore, and people stood on the land to hear him. Then he began to tell them a story. A farmer went out to plant his garden. As he was throwing the seed on the ground, some fell on the hard path nearby, and the birds came and ate them. The next seeds fell near some rocks the farmer had in a pile nearby. There was not much soil around the rocks, so the seeds just started to sprout. When seeds aren't planted in soil, they don't grow roots, which help them grow properly. In the afternoon, when the sun was very hot, the little shoots that had started to grow withered away and died because they had no root in the ground. As the farmer continued to throw seeds onto the ground, some of the seeds fell among the weeds and thorns that he hadn't pulled out. The weeds and thorns grew faster and taller than the seeds, so the seeds couldn't get enough sunlight and were choked out by the weeds and thorns. Finally, some seed fell on the good soil that the farmer had worked and dug holes for the seed to go into. Those seeds made plants, and those plants produced lots and lots of lovely vegetables. Jesus explained, when people teach you things, they are planting a pretend seed in your heart and mind. Think of the seed as a lesson about God. If you don't listen, you won't understand. You'll forget what you are told, and it'll be like the seeds that fell on the path that were eaten by the birds. You will forget, and the seed will be gone from your heart and mind, so it can't grow. If you don't concentrate, the seed in your heart and mind can't grow properly either, and it'll be like the seed that fell on the rocks. It grew only for a very short time, and then it died. The next seed is the one that was choked out by the weeds and thorns. This can happen when you hear a lesson about God and then you start to worry about all kinds of things. Thinking about other things, like weeds and thorns, can take over, and then you forget to concentrate on the Word of God. The last seed is the best. It fell on the good ground. If you learn from what you hear in church and school, the seed that is planted in your heart will grow. You will be able to tell others about what you've learned, and you will be helping others to grow in their knowledge and understanding of God's love. So, children, the message in the story that Jesus has given us today is all about listening to the Word of God, listening to the messages from the Gospel and letting them grow in your hearts and in your mind so that you can go on and share them with others. And the hard path, the rocks, the weeds and the thorns are all examples of ways in which we don't listen to the Word of God. We don't take it into our hearts and minds. And Jesus wants our hearts and minds to be like the good soil, so that the seed that he plants in his messages can grow and we can share it with others. We can spread that good news and all of the lovely messages that Jesus shares with us in these wonderful stories. Okay, for your follow-up activity, I'd like you to illustrate how the seed grew in each of the areas that the farmer was sprinkling the seed upon. The hard path, the rocks, the weeds and thorns, and in the good soil too. And as a challenge activity, can you write a description underneath of what Jesus was explaining to us when he talked about seed on the hard path, the seed falling in the rocks, the seed growing in the weeds and thorns, and the seed in the good soil? What was the message that he was trying to get across in the parable of the sower? I look forward to seeing your pictures and also your explanation of this lovely parable later today.